Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF in Europe. In today's training tape, we're looking at illegal formations. So we'll have a look at some formations and talk about how much is too much and how can we help the teams make the formations legal, which is really what we want to try in most situations. But before we get to the game film, let's have a look to see what the rulebook and the MOFO have to say on this topic.
In the rulebook, we go to 7-1-4 formation. At the snap, Team A must be in a formation that meets these requirements. 1. All players must be inbounds. 2. All players must be either linemen or backs. 3. At least 5 linemen must wear jerseys numbered 50 through 79. And 4. No more than 4 players may be backs. In the MOFO, we go to 3-6-1, illegal formation. A. It is always a foul when Team A has 5 or more players in the backfield at the snap. Team A gains a blocking advantage by being further away from the defense. B. It is still a foul for 5 players in the backfield even if Team A has only 10 or fewer players on the field at the snap. C. Only called a foul if the 5th player is conspicuously off the line. That means his head is clearly behind the rear end of the snapper or has ignored repeated warnings. That means at least 2 warnings. D. Give more leeway to wide receivers and slot backs in determining whether they are on or off the line of scrimmage than you do to interior linemen or tight ends. Be particularly generous on fields that are not well marked out. And finally, E. On a trick or unusual play, formations should have the highest degree of scrutiny and should be penalized unless they are completely legal. And that was the book. Now let's have a look at some game film. When it comes to formations, the underlying philosophy is that we really don't want to call too many of these, so it really has to be really big for us to call it. Here we've got, the kicker and the holder and the 2 wing backs, so we've got 4 in the backfield. Everything is square, and then player number 11 comes in and clearly lines up in the backfield. So this is simply just too big for us to ignore. And that's where we really want to be in these types of fouls, is that we have to get to the point where the offense doesn't give us any leeway. The other point about this play here is that we've got 10 people in the formation right now, and the referee needs to know this. So it would be a good idea to keep somebody over the ball, and certainly as long as there is a possibility that number 11 comes in, because that is a substitution, and now we have to freeze the play with the substitution mechanic. So referee, center judge, umpire in this type of formation, you have to be aware that this is a 10-man formation, so that once number 11 comes in, we can freeze the play again and give the defense the option to substitute. But in any case, this is too big of an illegal formation to ignore. Well, the first one was a scrimmage kick. Now the next 2 clips are on kickoff formations. And we don't see this very often, but this is clearly illegal. Nobody is, except for the kicker, nobody is allowed to be more than 5 yards down or back, and here it's clearly by design, and on a short kick to this side it certainly is on purpose, and they gain an advantage from it, but the primary thing here is that it's by design, and it's very clearly, he's 4 yards back, so this is a correct call by this back judge. You see right there, he's even reaching for his flag because he knows this is going to end badly. So unusual situation, but a good pickup by this back judge. So if we compare the previous play to this play, when they break the huddle, they will pretty much always, at least technically, break the rule and be behind the 5-yard line. Now we're looking at the guy, the second guy from the top, and he is behind the line. You know, it's not on purpose or by design like the last play. Here he almost pretty much stops his movement forward. Plus, it ends up being a deep kick to the other side. So I'm actually okay with this being a talk to or a warning instead, because it's not something that we want to go looking for, and it isn't as obvious here. Even though technically it is illegal, I'm perfectly fine with this being a talk to. We're now moving on to the offensive line, and here we'll notice that the line of scrimmage is +1. We'll have a look at the 4 remaining O-line players, and you might be able to say that they are barely breaking the backside of the snapper. It would be a stretch to say that they're breaking the hip of the snapper. So if this is very early in the game, you might be able to get away with a talk to, but if this continues to happen, this certainly would be supported as a flag for illegal formation, with basically only 3 players on the line of scrimmage. But again, if you want to do the talk to, make sure that you do it early in the game, as soon as this happens, so that we can correct it, and so that we don't allow this to happen and then start flagging it in the 4th quarter. On this formation, most of the line is actually okay, but this tackle here closest to the camera is just too far back. He's clearly 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and if you compare him to the slot back across the field, they're pretty much lined up at the same yard line. So it's a hard sell to say that one of them is in the backfield and the other one is on the line of scrimmage. So this would be certainly also supported as an illegal formation, 5 players in the backfield. In comparison, this formation is just legal. I mean, the offensive line, you can't argue that they are breaking the snapper's hip, certainly his backside. But again, as a wing, talk to these guys, use the radio to get the referee, center judge, umpire, whoever involved, talk to the coach as soon as we can to get this cleaned up, get the guards and the tackles to move up a foot or half a foot, so that we don't end up in trouble, because if they slide back just an inch or two, now we have an issue that we cannot ignore, and we don't want to ignore this. We need to address this, but a talk to here would be better than a flag. We're now moving on to punt formations, and in this punt formation, I think it's fairly obvious that at least this side of the line, the guard and the tackle, do not break the line of the snapper's hip or even his backside. So we may only have 3 players on the line of scrimmage here, and this certainly is too much to ignore, and this should warrant a flag. Incidentally, notice that with this kind of a punt, if the punt never crosses the line of scrimmage, let's say it crosses the sideline in the backfield, remember that tag on is not an option unless the ball actually crosses the line of scrimmage. Here's another punt formation, and here most of the line is actually legal, but it looks like there are 2 wingbacks, but unfortunately for the offense, one of them is actually the tackle. And we want to make these formations legal, but sometimes we have no choice. And in this case, there are clearly 5 players in the backfield, and this needs to be called the first time we see it. This formation is similar to the previous one in that we've got 3 players in the shield, and then we've got 2 players up close to the line of scrimmage that are clearly in the backfield, making this actually even 6 players in the backfield. So this is one that we need to call. There's no way for us to make this legal. So the 2 wings actually communicate well right here that this formation is illegal. The official at the top of the screen has the signal for player in the backfield. It would be nice if the official here down at the bottom also had this signal, just to illustrate or to signal that this formation is illegal, or his player is in the backfield in any case. But there's really good communication and good flags right after the snap, correctly so. In comparison, this formation, it might be technically illegal. The player at the top of the screen there, he might be behind the snapper's waistline, but this is one where we can make it legal and leave it with a talk to. And that's really what we want to do. Clean it up at this stage. Get them to move up a little bit, either again talk to the player or get word to the coaches. We can use our radios to do that stuff, so that it doesn't get any worse than this, and they can clean it up and we can move on with the play and the game without having to flag these for a technical formation, and that would be, that's better for everybody in the long run. In the last 3 plays, we're looking at receivers. So first of all, this guy closest, A80, right there, he's signaling quite clearly, both by, lining up in the backfield, but also with his arm that he wants to be in the backfield. And typically, when they do that, we try to work as hard as we can to let them be where they want to be. Obviously, that's not black and white, but if they want to be in the backfield and there's any way that we can do that, we want to put them in the backfield. And here, at the top of the screen, we've got 2 receivers also in the backfield, making it a total of 5. And again, these wings do a very good job of communicating and signaling, and right at the snap, we've got a flag. Well done by these officials. So the line of scrimmage is the +1, and we've got 2 receivers coming out here. Now already we can tell that we've got 3 players in the backfield, in the backfield inside the tackle box, and these 2 receivers here. Even though we want to, as much as we can, make the formation legal, here they're both lining up almost 2.5 yards in the backfield, so it's just impossible for us to make this formation legal. And the wing here at the bottom does a good job of signaling 2 players in the backfield, and we really should have, we get 1 flag, we should have 2 flags. We should have the communication across the field to get the wing at the top also to be involved, because if he sees his buddy communicate 2 in the backfield, and he can see there are 3 in the tackle box, 2 + 3 is 5, so we should have 2 flags here, but certainly this is an illegal formation that we cannot make legal. In this last formation, we have a similar situation where the line of scrimmage is +2, and we've got 3 receivers over there that are clearly, at least 2 yards in the backfield. There's just no way, even though we want to help the offense or help the formation as much as we can, there's no way that we can put any of these receivers on the line of scrimmage. So we end up with 3 in the backfield, 2 in the tackle box, making 5, and these 2 officials have good communication across the field. We've got 2 flags perfectly called. And that was the training tape. I hope it made sense in terms of the fact that we want to make these formations legal, but sometimes there's just nothing we can do and we have to call it, and illustrations of how how bad they have to be before we have to call it like this one. So I hope it made sense, and I hope you found something you can use on the field.